Hello and welcome to the Oakland A's UK live stream, our Monday review live stream on April 17th. I am Matt from the A's UK crew. We are here on the YouTube channel and also on our Twitter account. So hello if you're watching live. If you're watching live, if you're not on the YouTube channel, if you head over to the YouTube channel, you can join in via the chat, and always good to hear from you if you're watching live. If you're watching on repeat, let me know your thoughts in the comments below and I will check them out when I can. But yes, there is plenty to cover. Let's be honest, it was another trying week for the Oakland A's. 3 losses out of 4 in Baltimore against the Orioles. Then we headed back home, which was always good to happen, but unfortunately swept up by the New York Mets. And on its own, no great surprise. We know the difference in payroll between the two is an absolute chasm, and you would expect them to sweep us. The manner of that first defeat on Friday night was an absolute shocker. And the only thing I will say about that, it did at least for some people in the media to point the finger at Fisher. At last, people are actually paying a bit of attention and realizing what's really going on here. It was a shambles. And everything was pointing at the A's in the Coliseum and the problems we're having, and whether you really can blame Oakland City Council or you really can blame the local people. Look at who is the common denominator through it all. It is ownership. Ownership is the issue. Ownership is a problem. And it was nice to see some people in the media actually acknowledge that. Of course, some people have been doing so for a while, but good to see it spread a bit more widely this time around. And of course, the SNY announcers, Ron Darling, Keith Hernandez, and the other guy whose name I forget, were pointing this out, that they were unable to be in the usual broadcasting booth because of a possum, or the possum that was there in the past. Apparently a nasty smell in the booth. So they were in an alternative booth to cover the game. Well, there we go. I don't think the possum made an appearance during the series, but then the 2 weasels who we mainly think about weren't there either. They were conspicuous by their absence, weren't they, Mr. Fisher and Mr. Cavill? And I can highlight that there. There we go. Wanted for crimes against Bay Area baseball. Ain't that the truth? So there we go. What a disaster. And what a mess we are in. But all we can do is keep the fight going. And of course, nobody did that better than our friends at the at the Oakland 68s with their banner. There you are. Stop blaming us. Hashtag Fisher out. Definitely good stuff by them. As always, if you were wondering, yes, they were told to take the banner down. Apparently, they were told that this was mainly because of the size of the banner. So there are adjustments being made so that they can bring the banner back for next time. And of course, next time is tonight against the Cubs. We will be previewing that series, a 3-game series at the Coliseum against the Cubs, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. But before we do that, painful though it is, we have to have a look back at the Mets series. And the problem with that is that we have to start with game 1, which was an absolute disaster of a level I think is hard to really put into words. All we can say is it was a 17-6 loss. We out-hit the Mets 13-11, but gave up 17 walks, which is almost unbelievable. It's almost like, is that a typo? That can't be right. But it was right. Unfortunately, an absolute shocker of a night. It did lead to some harsh words from Mark Kotsay, and let's be honest, very well deserved harsh words from Mark Kotsay, saying it was not a competitive environment. And there we go. Yes. Wasn't that saying something? I'm sure he wasn't directly saying something, but we all thought he was saying something. Let's be honest. Culture always starts at the very top. It is not a competitive environment. And we all know who takes the blame for that. Shocker, a 6-run second inning. James Caprillion getting knocked around. And then, oh, dearie me, poor old Hogan Harris. Not very good. Got called up for the game. 6-run 5th inning. Walking people left, right, and centre. Just a shocker. Chad Smith did pitch well, so that's been good to see. He's come up and pitched pretty well in his 2 starts, or 2 or 3 outings he's had. Pitched 2 2/3, good innings there. Everyone else was basically awful. We did get some home runs. So Rooker, who is really coming into his own quickly, he went deep. Langoliers went deep, as did Aledmus Diaz, his first for the A's. But yes, just a shocker, an absolute shocker. And a game that, well, it's almost a game you don't want to forget because it was so bad that you can't overlook it. And in some ways, that's kind of what we need. I know it's not nice to go through, but you can't make any excuses for it. That was just shocking. It was a pathetic performance, not worthy of a major league name, really. So there we go. You have to dust yourself down and go again. And we did. And to be fair to Mark Kotsay's crew, they were a lot more competitive in the other 2 games. And in fact, after yesterday's game, Mark Kotsay did say in some ways it's easier to wear the first loss because it was just a shocker and you could just write it off. Whereas games 2 and 3, well, one-run affairs. We could have won both of them. And in some ways, that makes those defeats all the more frustrating than the opener. Game 2 on Saturday, lost it 3-2, level up on 5 hits apiece. And again, the key thing there was, could we get some starting pitching? And it didn't look good on paper, let's be honest. Shintaro Fujinami was on the mound for the A's, has struggled to go deep into games, has struggled with walks. So they were the 2 things we needed. We needed someone to go deep in the game. We couldn't afford to keep giving out free passes. But Fuji came up. Really good effort from him. 6 innings, did give up 2 solo shots, but otherwise limited damage really well along the way. Only gave up 2 walks, which was good. Was Kotsay right to bring him out again for the 7th inning? I know those sort of decisions are easy to second guess after the event. I did think, I understood, given the struggles we've had, why he did it. But there's a bit of me, you got your 6 innings from him. Let's just leave it at that and put that in the bank. But didn't work out that way. Of course, the issue from there was Mark Canha. So we all love Mark Canha. And he came back to hurt us, unfortunately, both with a home run. And Len also made a very good catch, didn't he? It was, let me look at my notes. The A's having bases loaded in the bottom of the 4th, and he made a good catch in left field. We could have broke that game open, and Canha did it. And of course, it was a similar story, really, in game 3 yesterday, where Brandon Nimmo made a couple of amazing grabs in center field to really help the Mets out. We could have won that one. We should have won that one, really. That's what I put in my notes. We should have won it. 4-3 loss in extra innings. We were there to win it. Unfortunately, Danny Jimenez came in the 9th and gave up the solo home run to Pete Alonso, which tied the game. And it was something I questioned at the time in terms of whether that was the right thing to do. You know, we have the situation where Samuel came in, got the first batter out in that inning against the lefty, Nimmo, I think it was. And I tweeted at the time, sometimes you can just play matchups a bit too much. You can be a bit too clever for your own good. He brought in Zach Jackson. This was in was this 10th inning? Getting myself confused there. Let me have a look. Yeah. I can't remember whether it was the 10th inning or the 9th. In any ways, we were there. No, it was the 10th, wasn't it? It was Mole coming in, pitching well, getting the first batter out, and then turning the ball to Zach Jackson, who gave up 3 walks after Danny Jimenez had given up 3 walks. And I didn't like that decision. Mole was pitching well. Starling Marte was in the man up. Marte doesn't have particularly strong splits. He's better hitting righties than lefties, or better hitting lefties than righties, I should say, but not particularly strongly. So I didn't particularly like that move. However, after the game, I will say Matt Karahara of the San Francisco Chronicle did ask Mark Kotsay about it. And this is what Kotsay had to say.
Yeah, it's the best matchup. I mean, you got a lefty. I know Mole did his job. He came in against Escobar, which is a switch hitter. I felt great about leaving him out there in the 10th and going through Alvarez and Nemo. It was a line there. And our bullpen guys, I mean, you look at their workload right now. Jackson's thrown, I think, 5 out of 8 or 9 games. And we're leaning on these guys right now. We've had to use them in down games to cover our starting pitching. So, same as Danny. Danny, back-to-back days again. And, so it's not an excuse. But the reality of it is that they've been used a lot in these first 14 games. And, I think it's impacted some of their ability, some of their success.
And it's a fair comment from Mark Kotze, that, isn't it? The starting pitching has been a real struggle so far, and you do just have to keep going to the same people again and again in that bullpen, and it's a problem. You can't expect to keep leaning on the bullpen that hard and expect them to keep coming through. It's too much to ask. And it causes some turnovers. So we had Hogan Harris coming up for a game after Adam Moller got blown up in his spot start. So he lasted just that one appearance and went straight back to Vegas. They brought up Richard Lovelady. What a great name Richard Lovelady is. Classic name, brought in on a waiver claim and pitched really well yesterday, didn't he? A couple of good innings from him. He does look like somebody who can stick on a roster because we picked him up from the Braves. We seem to be collecting ex-Braves like they're going out of fashion. So he is someone who's could be a good addition. In the same way that Chad Smith I mentioned earlier, he came in and pitched well. He's come in and pitched multiple innings a couple of times now and has looked good doing it. So there are some shoots, some green shoots there, green and gold shoots, maybe you could say, of positivity to have. Brent Rooker has been looking really good of late, sticking the ball over the fence and just looking through the numbers again. So there was 27 hits by the A's across those 3 games. So you get 9 hits a game. You're giving yourself a chance. We were really struggling with offense earlier on this season. They were still very early in the season, but at least we are putting some hits together. Struggled with runners in scoring position yesterday. But other than that, we've been doing okay. Let's be fair to the team. They've been doing okay. 17 walks in that first game given up was just ridiculous, but we held it together much better. Games 2 and 3 with Fuji going 6 strong in the second game. Then JP Sears doing really well in that second game too, pitching 6 strong innings. So good from them. And as for the hitting performances, Esteury Ruiz very quickly becoming a firm favourite of all of us, let's be honest. He went 4 for 11 in the series. Aledmys Diaz went 4 for 11 with his first home run in the green and gold. Brent Rooker 4 for 12 with another home run. And Shea Langoliers are looking much better at the plate. He's had a bit of a slow start so far this season. And I think you can give him, just as the bullpen, you have to be mindful that they're being used a lot. Shea Langoliers has been used a lot. He's catching a lot so far this season, but he went 5 for 9 in this series with a home run. So that's great. And Carlos Perez, I will say, has looked good. He obviously had a couple of big games against Baltimore and has looked more than competent behind the plate and even on the pitching mound. A couple of performances from him as mop-up duty at the end of a game. But yes, Shea Langoliers looking like he's coming into form, which is really good to see. I think the one disappointment so far has been Kevin Smith. We were hopeful him being called up at the start of the week, he would bring that Las Vegas form up to the big leagues. We haven't seen it yet. I think people are far too quick to judge hitters, especially young hitters coming up from AAA. He was never just going to jump in and start smacking the ball around as he was doing in AAA. Has struggled quite a bit and has been striking out quite a bit, but he got a hit yesterday, didn't he? And let's stick with him. Playing quite a bit of second shortstop. Obviously, Nick Allen being demoted, which was a surprise. But let's hope that Kevin Smith has a big series against the Chicago Cubs. Before we get to that series against the Chicago Cubs, let's have a little look around the majors and catch up on some news from the other teams. So we start off with the Tampa Bay Rays. Of course, they beat us up at Tropicana Field a week or so ago. They were 13 wins in a row to start the season. But then the Toronto Blue Jays finally put an end to that, beating them on Friday night and then beating them again on Saturday. But the Rays bounced back to winning ways yesterday with an 8-1 win. Included a 3-run shot by Christian Bethancourt, who was obviously on our team last season. Big news for the Rays, though, was Jeremy Springs, who pitched very well against the A's in a series at Tropicana Field. He is going to be out for a couple of months, maybe even longer because of an elbow issue. So that is a big blow. The Rays have that incredible production line. They just keep churning pitchers out in particular. But that's a big blow for them. Blake Snell isn't pitching. So, yeah, there's definitely some issues they need to pick up there because he's a guy they gave the contract to over the offseason, which still was a modest contract in any normal way of thinking about it. A decent amount of money for the Rays, but still a modest contract for what he gave. But that's a loss to them if he is going to miss considerable time. And it looks like he will miss at least a couple of months. So that is a gap for them to fill. Well, the Rays streak ended, although they may be starting another one. But the team who are streaking at the moment are the Atlanta Braves. They swept up a 3-game series against the Cincinnati Reds. And then over the weekend, they swept up the Kansas City Royals. So they are 6 wins in a row. They are 12-4 on the season. And what do you know? Sean Murphy, who hits big boy home runs, is starting to heat up. Had a slow start in his with his new team, but he went 3 for 3 with a home run and 2 doubles on Saturday. Also hit a home run on Friday. So he is really getting comfortable playing for the Braves. Matt Olson has had a big week as well. Hit a 2-run triple yesterday. Hit a home run early in the season, early in the series too, I should say. So the Braves are looking very good. And looking ahead to this week, big series starting tonight, a 3-game series, Braves at Padres. That should be a really fun one to watch. So looking forward to catching up on that. But heading back to the American League, the AL West, the A-Zone AL West, Seattle Mariners have won 4 in a row to even up their season 8-8 so far. They beat the Cubs on Wednesday, and then they swept up a 3-game series at home against the Colorado Rockies. Luis Castillo was pitching a perfecto going into the 7th inning yesterday. And yes, the Seattle Mariners having a bit of a bumpy start, but they've now evened up their season to a 500 record. They are about to start a 3-game series at home against the Milwaukee Brewers. Brewers going well as well, 11-5 so far this season. So that's another really good series to look forward to. Can the same be said about the A's and the Cubs? I don't know. There is always hope. You look at the A's right now and you wonder where the wins are going to come from. And you can start looking at the win-loss record and the percentage, and good God almighty, what sort of record might be put up by the end of the season? Is it going to be a historically bad season? Of course, we were all hoping that the A's would take a step forward this year. Not seeing much sign of that so far. But let's have a look at the series coming up. 3-game series at home against the Cubs. So starting tonight, Monday and Tuesday are night games at the Coliseum. So 6:40 local time, which makes for an early old start here in the UK, 2:40 in the morning. So tonight is Carl Muller looking to bounce back and giving up a few runs last time out. He goes against Hayden Wesneski. Don't know much about him, I'll be honest. Tuesday, Kim Walterjug, he had a much more encouraging performance last time out, didn't he? He faces off against Marcus Stroman on Tuesday. And then the day game, getaway Wednesday this week, 12:37 local time, 8:37 p.m. here in the UK. James Gaprelian against Justin Steele. So Cap really struggled in his start on Friday night against the Mets, giving up 6 runs in 1 inning. So we need him to get back on track. And hopefully he will. Looking at the Cubs, they're in good form. You know, they're in good form. They've won all 3 of their last 3 series. Last homestand, won 2 of 3 at Texas, then 2 of 3 at Seattle. So they're doing pretty well on the road against the AL West. Went to LA, won 2 of 3 thanks to a 3-2 win yesterday. So they are in good form. We are not, and we are not very good. So all the signs are this isn't going to be too helpful, but we shall see. They had a boost with Seiya Suzuki, the Japanese outfielder, who had an injury going into spring training, so he had been delayed to start the season, but he was activated off the injured list on Friday. So he is back in the lineup. The man who was going great guns so far was Patrick Wisdom. Homered in every game of the Dodgers series, has 6 on the season. Although only 9 RBI, in fact. So most of those have been of a solo variety. But clearly he is going to be a real danger man during this series. There we go. So that is the review. A tough series against the Mets. In some ways, a real reality check, not just for the team on the field, but off the field as well. Good to see Fisher getting it in the neck a little bit. Dave Cavill as well. The two weasels, nowhere to be seen, just like the possum. But we need to keep the pressure on. I'm sure there will be plenty more banners out there in right field and across the bleachers. We want to keep the team going, though, because, you know, the Cup Series is one where we could take a couple of wins. They're a good team, but they've got a couple of less experienced starters going. Of course, Marcus Stroman will be a tough task on Tuesday, but other than that, we have a chance against them. If the bats keep going as they have been and we get some pitching, hey, we've got a chance. And we could do that because we then have an off day on Thursday before 3 games in Texas and 4 in Anaheim against the Angels. So plenty to come up. I'm looking forward to the Cup Series. I have to say it should be good. Obviously, the new schedule format now means we will be playing them every year. This year, it's at the Coliseum. Next year, it will be at Wrigley Field. So, a chance to get some wins on the board, perhaps. We will see. Let's hope so. Anyway, hopefully, by tomorrow morning when I wake up, the A's will have a win because we desperately need one. Good performance and a win would do wonders. So let's hope we get that tonight. Thank you for watching. If you've been watching live and watching on repeat, always good to hear from you on the chat. We'll be back. I'm not sure when we will be back. Maybe on Thursday. I will let you know on the Twitter account at Oakland A UK when we will be back. Maybe after the Wednesday game, we'll see how late that one goes. But yes, we'll let you know on his Twitter account and we will be back because we need to be talking about these things. We need to keep the pressure on Fisher and Cavill and we need to keep supporting the team because although it's a struggle, the guys out there in green and gold are doing their best to get us some wins and we need to back them. Thanks a lot for watching. I'll see you very soon.